This is Robert Wires at the IFT in Las Vegas, and I'm here with John White, who's a consultant to the Corn Refiners Association. There's been quite a big debate about the equivalence of high fructose corn syrup to sugar. John, can you give a bit of background to this and where the science stands in this area?
I'd be happy to, Robin. Pleasure to talk with you and with your audience. This controversy stems back to 2004 to an article that was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition by two prominent nutritionists in the United States. And the thesis of their commentary was that there is a correlation between rising use of high fructose corn syrup in the United States over the period from 1970 to 2000 and rising rates of obesity. So there was a mathematical correlation between the two. We need to understand that correlation is not causation, and they certainly understood this, and so they formulated a hypothesis, high fructose corn syrup hypothesis. And this hypothesis then stated that the epidemic of obesity may be related to increased use of high fructose corn syrup. Now, it was surprising to those of us in the food and beverage industry, particularly those of us with an expertise on sweeteners, that this hypothesis was restricted to high fructose corn syrup and did not include sugar or sucrose. And the reason that's surprising is that these two sweeteners are very similar in terms of their composition, the number of calories they have, their sweetness, their functionality in foods, and the way that they are metabolized by the body. So the act of excluding sugar from the hypothesis focused attention squarely on high fructose corn syrup as a unique cause of obesity.
What has happened as a result of this?
Well, as a result, there has been a tremendous amount of attention paid to high fructose corn syrup, and there has been some negative opinion about high fructose corn syrup within the food industry, within the scientific community, and within consumers. Now, I have to say that the perception of the negative opinion is probably much higher than the reality. For example, if you did an unaided survey of consumers, if you stood outside of a grocery store or a supermarket and asked people going in, what are you concerned about during your shopping trip today? Only 3%, 5% would say, I'm concerned about high fructose corn syrup. So this is an unaided response.
Why is there's so little high fructose corn syrup used outside of the US?
Well, this is largely the result of two factors. High fructose corn syrup is made from corn starch in the United States. It can be made from other starch sources elsewhere in the world. For example, there's some made from potato starch, there's some made from tapioca, there's some made from rice starch. So it requires a substantial and plentiful and consistent source of starch, and that's not available everywhere in the world. The second reason is economics. There's a history in Europe, for example, of sugar refining from sugar beets, and so there's a protectionist. There are protectionist measures in place in Europe throughout the European Union that restrict the amount of high fructose syrup that can be made. Worldwide, only about 10% of the sweetener used is high fructose corn syrup. 90% of it is sugar.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.